YouTube is full of videos about good knives. It's full of videos about bad knives. It's high time that someone makes a video about weird knives. This is 3 Weird Knives, and I'm your host, JJJinks!
Let's get weird.
Welcome to another episode of 3 Weird Knives with JJJinks. Now, I gotta go get my first knife. It's in the freezer. I'll be right back. Now, I know what you're thinking, but here's the story. I'm just trying to be creative with how I organize my collection, and this knife happens to be really cool. Master USA. As my friend Soup Master pointed out, this knife kind of looks like one of the enemies from Terraria. Yeah, that one. Now, there is a practical reason why I kept this in my freezer, and that is this. The scale material is infused with a thermochromic compound, which means it changes color depending on the temperature. This is the cool temperature, kind of a deep orange red. So, when you go about your day using your knife casually for, the things you use your knife every day for, like I am about to do, just casual things, like stirring coffee. And check that out. It's turned yellow. Oh, that is so cool. It's the first time I've actually done that. I love the taste of Loctite in the morning. And that's pretty much the only thing this knife really does. So the patterning on this knife looks pretty neat, I guess. You have kind of a spinal looking thing going on. The blade is kind of like a kris. So yeah, it's kind of, got coffee there. This wavy look with a few holes and a channel going down the middle. Otherwise, it's just a novelty knife from Master Cutlery. It's not that great, to be honest. Well, it's got a deep right pocket clip, so that's cool. The lockup is good, so that's cool. I think it's on Teflon spacers, which is pretty standard for a cheap knife. And it is colliding with the liner, so that's cool. It's actually very hard to actuate because it's very close to the scale in a position where you just can't really follow through with it very well. So even though it is open assisted, sometimes that happens just because your finger runs right into the scale. Funny thing about this knife was the day I got it, it was actually really hot. We kind of had a heat wave recently. So when I first opened it, it was yellow, and it stayed yellow most of the day. Then in the morning, after it had cooled down at night, I woke up, and it was orange. So you can use it as a thermometer. Now, if I really did want to casually use this every day for, other than stirring my coffee, I would do something about that collision with the liner, but the problem is there's not a whole lot of blade play. Which that two usually go together, which means I could tighten the pivot, it would recenter, and the blade play would go away. But I know what would happen if I tightened it like that. It would just get really, really tight and be impossible to open. Hand feel wise, oh man, it's got a lot of hot spots. Pretty much every little ridge and groove here pokes into the palm of your hand, into your fingers, and it doesn't feel that great. But none of that matters to me because it changes color with temperature. And I think that's really innovative. I'd like to see more stuff like that. It's weird, but it's also cool. I got this from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. They had another one where the color changes from blue to green, or maybe the other way around, depending on which way you go. But they were sold out. I think I would have liked that one a little better. But, orange yellow is still kind of neat. And there's this little tail at the end where you can see the blade is sticking there, kind of like a seatbelt cutter. So I suppose you could maybe use it like that. Back to the freezer with you. Now this other weird knife I had to get from eBay. I have no idea how I first stumbled upon it. Maybe eBay's algorithm has finally figured out, hey, this guy likes weird stuff. And here it is. So this is an old novelty thing from, I think I don't know, 60s, 70s, 80s. There's a few of these on eBay. And most of them were in terrible condition. This was the best one I could find. And what you have is a ruler for honest fishermen. And it is in legal inches. But if you flip it over, you have a ruler for dishonest fishermen in illegal inches, which I think is American slang for centimeters, because that's what that is. Also, it floats because it's wood, and if you pull, there's a knife inside. So it's got these ridges on the back, which you could use for scaling fish. The blade ain't that special, but it's nice and shiny, and it's made in Japan. And if you look closely at the edge, it almost looks like there's a hamon. That wavy pattern there, I'm not sure what that's about. But the most important part is it's got a bottle opener, which, legal or illegal, that's what the fisherman really needs, right? And its scabbard can be inserted in the other direction, so you can mix and match your legal and illegal inches. And it's even got a lanyard hole. So I thought this was kind of a neat thing that, you'd find in like your uncle's cabin or your grandfather's basement or something. Just kind of a silly gag gift for the fisherman in your life. And that's that. Now when I first got into knife collecting, probably about, 5 or 6 years ago, I always thought knives where the blade was shorter than the handle always looked a bit goofy. But like many preferences, my mind changed over time. Here's one notable example. This is the Kershaw Barge, which has almost a comically small blade compared to the handle. But this is a really great knife. I carried it for quite a while, and I gotta say, having this built-in pry bar is great. It's super reinforced. They don't make this anymore, it's discontinued, but it's inexpensive, or it was. And I got over the fact that the blade was just kind of so stubby pretty quickly. But I've never really thought about how you would make a knife the other way around. Like, what if the blade were longer than the handle? Is there even such a thing? How would that work? Well, the answer is yes, and the answer is, let me show you. This comes to us from Grand Way Knives. GW Knives. The GW stands for Good Worker, I guess. And you have Link's shield. It's a 4172K folding pocket knife. And here it is in its sheath. Grand Way, Good Worker, I don't know, pick one. Yes, this is how you deal with a knife where the blade is longer than the handle. It's got this kind of a saddle thing that swings out on the bottom, so that in the closed position you're protected from the cutting edge. That's pretty interesting, I think. So the blade is enormous compared to the handle. They did it. And this little saddle part, well, it swings up and very neatly rests between the liners, which puts it right in the middle of this finger choil. Doesn't do very much for the comfort of it, but now you can baton wood all day with a folding knife. I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of innovation in this video. Otherwise, you've got steel bolsters, kind of a laminate wood with your choice of lanyard holes. Here, I suppose you could put a lanyard in the saddle part too. Actually, that might help, because then you can very easily pull it back out when you gotta close the knife. It's also on a half stop. And the blade is actually not locked into place. It's a slip joint. So be aware of that. Not sure what would happen if the blade were to suddenly go off center. They've also got a couple of holes right here, and I'm not sure why, because the blade has to go past this part when you open and close it, so you can't really put anything in there. Maybe it's like a safety? If you don't want the slip joint knife to close on you, you just put a pin in there? I'm not sure. So there it is. The Grand Way Good Worker blade bigger than the handle knife. So we're getting on in 3 Weird Knife episodes, and I figured I would tease right now that we're approaching episode number 33. 33 videos of 3 weird knives is 33 times 3 knives. That's 99 weird knives, which means we're approaching weird knife number 100, which I am immensely proud of. The fact that I have 100, I mean, there are some people who don't even have 100 knives in their collection, and here I am with like, oh yeah, that pile of 100 knives, those are just my weird ones. So I will be having a knife number 100 special when we get there. I figured I would just tease it now since, you know, we're getting close. And there's the thumbnail. Thanks for watching 3 Weird Knives.